welcome to Nityana Wall's second part of LDCE JE P-Way questions computer related. First one, on 24, which key is used to refresh the active window? That is B, F5. The QWERTY keyboard layout is named after B, the first 6 letters of the top row. What is the main software that manages the computer hardware and software resources? That is option B, operating system. Which of the following is not operating system? It is option C, Oracle. What does GUI stands for? That is option A, graphical user interface. Which company developed the Windows operating system? That is option C, Microsoft. Linux is an example of what kind of software? That is option B, open source. What is the first extension of Notepad text file extension? That is option B, .txt. Which program is used to view PDF files? That is option A, Adobe Reader. Which application is used for the creating presentations? That is option C, MS PowerPoint. In computer, what is driver? That is option B, software that allows the OS to communicate with hardware. What is booting? That is option B, starting or restarting of the computer. The bar usually located at bottom of the desktop is called C, taskbar. What is the shortcut to select all items? That is option A, Control A. Which key combination closes the currently open application? That is option B, Alt F4. To copy a file, the shortcut key is option B, Control C. Next question. File, the shortcut key is Control V. Control Z used for, that is option A, undo. Control Y is used for, that is option B, redo. Which key removes the character to the left of the cursor? That is option B, backspace. Next question. Which key removes the characters to the right of the cursor? That is delete. Option A. What is the extension of the Excel workbook? That is option B, .xlsx. What does www stands for? That is option A, World Wide Web. Who invented the World Wide Web? That is option B, Tim Berners-Lee. What is the full form of HTTP? That is option A, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Next question. What does HTML stand for? That is option A, Hypertext Markup Language. Which of these is web browser? That is option C, Google Chrome. What is a search engine? There is option B, a website that searches the internet. Example, Google. What does URL stands for? Option A, uniform resource locator. LAN stands for, option A, local area network. WAN stands for, option A, wide area network. What is Wi-Fi? That is option A, wireless fidelity. Every computer connected to the internet must be a unique, that is option B, IP address. What does ISP stands for? That is option A, internet service provider. Junk mail is also known as, option A, spam. Which protocol is used to send email? That is option C, SMTP. A secure website URL starts with, that is option C, HTTPS. What is the firewall used for? That is option C, to prevent unauthorized access or security. What is computing? That is option B, stops storing and accessing data over the internet. Which device connects the computer to the internet via telephone line? That is option A, modem. Next question, in an email address, example name @gmail.com. What is a gmail.com? That's a domain name, option B. What does FTP stands for? Option A, file transfer protocol. What is a computer virus? That is option B, a malicious software program. Phishing is, option B, a fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information. Which software protects the computer from virus? That is option C, antivirus. What does BIOS stands for? That is option A, basic input output system. Which is the binary number system base? That is option A, 2. Binary numbers consist of, option A, 0 and 1. What does PDF stands for? That is option A, portable document format. A folder inside another folder is called a, option B, subfolder. What is the keyboard shortcut to print the document? That is option A, Control P. What key is used to take a screenshot in Windows? That is option C, print screen. Next question, cut operation moves the text to temporary storage called, that is option B, clipboard. Which function key opens help? That is option A, F1. Thank you for watching. For more videos, like, share, subscribe my channel.